So, Gypsy Rose Blanchard is going to be on yet another podcast, and I can only assume that she's going to be trying to spread more of her story. And I say it like that because we have seen so much proof in these FOIA documents that the story she tells is not the true story of what happened. So it's going to be interesting to see because this podcast is called the Pretend Podcast. And it does mention that the person that does this, Javier, I believe his name is, he exposes cons and whatnot. But he is also associated with Andrea Dunlop. And Gypsy Rose did do a podcast with her, and that was one that was filled with a whole lot of lies because Andrea Dunlop has her own narrative and agenda. You know, she tried to accuse her own sister, I believe it is, of having Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So she had her own agenda in having Gypsy Rose on her podcast. So it's going to be interesting to see what this man does. Because he's also going to do interviews with Audacious Audrey, who is, if you don't know, she is an anti-gypsy creator, and also with, I believe, the girls from Into the Weeds podcast. And they are the ones who are responsible for getting us a lot of these FOIA documents and bringing the truth to the light. Now, I did see a little bit of a trailer, a preview, whatever you want to call it, of this interview. And Gypsy is sitting there, and she's basically saying she doesn't understand why she has so many fans, basically. Yeah, fans. She says she'll be at a mall or wherever, and people, oh my God, it's Gypsy Rose. Oh my God, it's Gypsy Rose. And she says it's teenagers, and she had the nerve to even tell us that it is even children as young as 10 years old. Now, we have a problem if children 10 years old are looking up to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. We all know why she is known, because she manipulated a man who was an autistic man into taking out her mother. I don't believe that story either. I believe, just to throw it out there, you know, my little conspiracy theory, I believe that Dee Dee, Gypsy's mother, was gone before Nicholas Godejohn ever arrived. Because think about this. Nicholas Godejohn was completely, to a fault, honest throughout his interrogation after the crime. And he says he only Dee Dee four times, but there was 13 wounds. And these wounds were a mixture between right-handed and left-handed. So in my mind, that says that there was two people that committed these injuries, that made these injuries to Dee Dee's body. So why would Nick lie about just that and say he only, 4 times? Why would that be the only detail he would lie about? No. And I always also wondered if in the crime scene photos, I'm sure a lot of you have seen those. They're very disturbing. I would think, if someone is, there would be splatter. I would believe. But there wasn't. Just pooling on the bed, basically. So I believe, and there was blood, I'm not sure if we can say it here, in the kitchen. Now, how did they get in the kitchen? I believe that is where the crime, the 13 wounds happened, was in the kitchen. And I believe that probably Mr. Dan Glidewell and the other guy that goes by Ace Bannister, I forget, Brian Rogers, I think that's his name. And maybe even, I'm on the fence on this one, but maybe even David Blanchard. I believe they helped Gypsy commit this crime. It occurred in the kitchen, I believe. And then I think they probably moved Dee Dee's body back into the bedroom. Then here comes Nicholas and Gypsy. Nicholas he probably did not even realize that Dee Dee was deceased by this point. I believe wholeheartedly that that's what happened. I really do. We'll never know because Gypsy will never, even though she cannot be retried for this crime or put back in prison, she will never admit to it. Never. And we know Nicholas Godejohn, I believe to this day, he still loves and worships Gypsy Rose. So he will never tell us the truth either, if he even knows. And I believe that Nicholas was not supposed to walk out of that house alive either. I think Gypsy's plan was to have him help her with her mother, and then she was going to say, oh my gosh, he tried to assault me and I had to unalive him. And I believe that's how it was supposed to go. But something went wrong there to where Gypsy, she had a little bit of a conscience for a second, or whatever the case was, but I believe she didn't finish the deed. I think she was supposed to take out Nick too. But I digress. So it's going to be interesting to see what this podcast is going to say. And like I said, it's very concerning. You know, we've seen an increase in these crimes where kids are trying to go after their parents. And I blame this on Gypsy Rose. People are saying, hey, these younger people, you know, we all went through, I was, not all of us, a good portion of us went through a phase in our lives where we could not get along with our parents, you know. I know I went through that phase. I knew more than my parents ever could have known. They didn't know what they were talking about. In my mind, you know. So these kids, they're saying, well, I can't do this, I can't do that because of these parents trying to run my life and they don't know what they're talking about. And look at Gypsy Rose. She did this. She had someone else to do it for her. She went and spent 8.5 years in prison, and look, she came out to, in their mind, fame, fortune, you know, a TikTok following of 9 point whatever million, Instagram following, book deals, a reality show. Now people, these kids, when their frontal cortex is not developed, they can't process this all out, but they're just seeing, shoot, maybe it's worth going to sit for 8.5, 9 years, 10 years even, and I can come out to all this money and fame. She has no place on social media, should not be on social media. And now she has said she's going to do this summer glow up, even though the summer is just about over. But she talks about she has like some scars from acne, and she has a mark on her face that some people have thought it's a bruise even. She filters her pictures so heavily that we'll never know what she really looks like. And she wants to get, she's going to get the extensions in her hair, because you know this girl cannot leave her hair alone. She cannot. If she could change her hair every day, she would. If she could go from long to short, to dark, to light, blonde, she would. Every day she would change it if she could. I don't know why she is never satisfied with anything with how her hair looks. I don't understand it. But she also wants to get lip filler. Lip filler requires injections. Now she claims she has been so medically traumatized, but she could walk into an office and let them inject filler into her lips. That doesn't bother her. She's not afraid of that. She wasn't afraid to get cosmetic surgery on her nose. She wasn't afraid to go get her teeth done. Anybody that truly experienced medical trauma would not have had these elective procedures done. Because if you're dealing with trauma, you try to steer far away from anything that is going to remind you of that trauma or trigger any memories of that trauma. Right? Just more evidence that Gypsy was never medically abused by Dee Dee. So, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what this new podcast is going to show us. And in 2 weeks, she'll have her new extension. So, I mean, how long before she'll cut them? Or try to color the extensions or something goofy? I don't know. Do you think that this man, though, on this podcast, do you think he's going to dig and actually show us the truth? Or do you think it's just going to be more of the same old nonsense, just another person buying her bullshit story? Let me know your thoughts.